So I've been seeing so much buzz about the new Street Fighter movie dropping in October 2026, and half the internet is convinced it's gonna be amazing, and the other half thinks it's a total disaster in the making. And honestly, I get both sides, and recently I spent way too much time researching this thing because I needed to figure out what's actually going on here. Is this a legitimate attempt to finally get a Street Fighter movie right? Or is it just another Hollywood cash grab using nostalgia to trick us into theaters? So I'm gonna walk you through literally everything. The production drama, the casting chaos, what Capcom's actually doing here, and why I think this might surprise you. So without wasting time on a long intro, let's get into it. So, before we can understand if this 2026 version is legit, we gotta talk about Street Fighter's absolutely brutal history with live-action movies. And I'm not exaggerating when I say brutal because there are literally only 2 live-action Street Fighter movies that came out, and both of them didn't work out great. In fact, one of them was so bad that Capcom banned live-action Street Fighter adaptations for over a decade. So, for first, we start in 1994, with Jean-Claude Van Damme as Ryu. The budget was $35 million, which back then was actually pretty substantial, and it actually made money at the box office. $99 million worldwide. So by the numbers, it was a success. But here's the thing about that movie that nobody talks about. It's kind of a beautiful disaster. The critics absolutely destroyed it. We're talking 11% on Rotten Tomatoes from critics, and that's basically a middle finger from the film establishment. The actual problem with the 1994 movie is that it tried to cram like 15 characters into one story with no real development. It was just chaos. Characters showing up, fighting, and leaving with zero emotional connection. But the wildest part was, they made Guile the main antagonist when Ryu should have been at the center of the whole thing. The only truly incredible thing about that movie was Raul Julia as M. Bison. That man was an absolute legend who brought everything to that role, and sadly, it was his final film. He elevated absolute nonsense and made it somehow watchable. The dude deserves to be remembered for that alone. Fast forward to 2009. Now we get Street Fighter, The Legend of Chun-Li, and this is where things get actually depressing. They spent $50 million on this thing, and it made $12.6 million worldwide. That's not just a flop, that's a catastrophic bomb. Like, the kind of financial disaster that haunts a franchise for years. The whitewashing was immediately offensive. They cast a bunch of white actors in roles that should have gone to Asian performers. The script was genuinely bad. The fight choreography wasn't nearly as creative as it should have been for a Street Fighter movie, and Chris Klein's acting was horrendous. But here's what matters for our conversation. After this absolutely flopped, Capcom straight up said no more live-action Street Fighter movies. They were done. The franchise had been so disrespected that the company that owns it just closed the door completely. That's how bad things got. Now here's the interesting part that most people don't know about. In 2014, there was a Street Fighter adaptation that actually worked, and it was made by fans on basically a shoestring budget. Street Fighter Assassin's Fist was a web series created by Joey Ansa and Christian Howard, 2 actual martial artists who were huge Street Fighter fans, and audience actually loved it. It was faithful to the games, the choreography was actually creative, and it understood why people care about these characters. It was so good that Capcom got behind it. They actually co-produced the sequel and everything. The company that had sworn off live-action Street Fighter completely came back because finally someone had made something that actually respected the material. So the big question becomes, with this new 2026 movie, are we getting Assassin's Fist energy? Or are we heading back to Legend of Chun-Li territory? In April 2023, Legendary Entertainment, the company that made Dune and Godzilla vs. Kong, bought the film rights to Street Fighter from Capcom. And immediately they bring Danny and Michael Filippo as directors, the guys who made Talk to Me, which was this genuinely creepy and brilliant horror movie that came out in 2023. Now here's the cool part that people missed at the time. The Filippo brothers weren't just random choices. Before they got famous, they had actually made Street Fighter fan films on YouTube. So they weren't just being hired to capitalize on nostalgia, they were actual fans of the franchise who understood it, and that was encouraging. But then, in June 2024, just when everyone thought we were set, Danny and Michael exit the project. Now the official story is scheduling conflicts. Legendary wanted to start production as soon as possible, but the Filippo brothers were committed to their next horror film with A24. But Michael Filippo did say in an interview that he and Danny have been having so much fun developing it. They were traveling to Thailand, training at Muay Thai camps, trying to find the real-life inspiration for some of these characters. So it's not like they left because the project sucked, they just had a scheduling conflict. Still, a lot of people online were calling this as a scam, and I get the skepticism because when director changes can signal production trouble, but sometimes it's just logistics. So February 2025 rolls around, and they announced the new director named Kitao Sakurai. Well, he made Bad Trip, that hidden camera Eric Andre Netflix comedy. He's also directed episodes of Twisted Metal, which is the Peacock adaptation of the video game franchise. So the dude has experience with video game IP and action comedy vibes. Is he the dream pick for Street Fighter? If you asked fans who they wanted to direct this, Sakurai probably wouldn't be in the top 50 names, but he's also not a terrible choice. He understands comedy, action, and video game adaptations. Those are actually the three things you need for Street Fighter to work. And here's the thing. It's not like they hired someone random or inexperienced. Sakurai has a body of work. He's not a first-time director. He might be unconventional, but he's not a complete unknown rolling the dice. The reason I'm spending time on the production drama is because it actually tells you something important. The original directors left due to scheduling, not because the project was a nightmare. The new director came from video game adaptation experience. Paramount Pictures stepped in to handle distribution, which is actually a pretty stable studio move. These aren't the signs of a project in freefall. When movies are truly in trouble, when they're cash grabs or destined to fail, you see executives getting fired, reshoots, budget slashing, all that chaos. This has been a pretty orderly production transition by Hollywood standards. Okay, so the cast announcement in September 2025 broke the internet. Let me walk you through the main players. Andrew Koji as Ryu. This one everybody agrees on. Andrew Koji is in Warrior on Max, where he plays a legit martial artist character. The dude is an actual trained martial artist. He looks the part. He gets it. This is perfect casting, and honestly, there's zero controversy here. Kalina Liang as Chun-Li. Most fans are cautiously optimistic about this one. She's not a massive name, which initially made people nervous, but that actually might be the best thing that could happen. Chun-Li doesn't need a massive A-lister carrying her. She needs someone who understands the character and can bring physicality to the role. Liang seems to be that person. Noah Centineo as Ken Masters. Okay, here's where people lost their minds. Noah Centineo is known for rom-coms and Netflix teen dramas, and at first the internet was like, there is no way the rom-com guy is Ken Masters. But then the photos came out. And I'm not even exaggerating. This dude transformed. Like, he's absolutely shredded. He dyed his hair blonde. He genuinely looks like Ken Masters. More importantly, it's clear he's taking this seriously. He didn't phone it in. He didn't half-ass the physical transformation. That matters. Now we get to the really wild casting choices. And this is where opinions actually start to diverge. Roman Reigns as Akuma. Okay, this sounds insane, but think about it practically. Roman Reigns is a trained athlete. He's incredibly physical, and Akuma is basically this mysterious, intimidating warrior. Reigns has the presence to pull that off. Cody Rhodes as Guile, the American Nightmare as America's soldier in Street Fighter. Actually, this one kind of makes perfect sense when you think about it. Cody Rhodes is tall, he's jacked, and he has that classic all-American look. The flat-top haircut, that's the most iconic thing about Guile, and Cody's whole vibe works. Here's where it gets really interesting and why I think the filmmakers actually understand what they're doing. Jason Momoa as Blanka. Yeah, Aquaman is playing the green Brazilian beast man. This sounds ridiculous, but Jason Momoa explained it. His son plays Street Fighter. He grew up with the game. He loves the franchise. And he promised the filmmakers that there's nobody better for this role because he brings genuine passion. That's not stunt casting, that's fandom. 50 Cent as Balrog. The rapper is getting shredded for this role, and his Instagram shows he's actually training and taking it seriously. David Dastmalchian as M. Bison, and this is solid. Dastmalchian is genuinely talented and brings intensity to roles. Eric Andre as Don Sauvage, Orville Peck as Vega, Vidyut Jamwal, the Indian action star as Dalsim. Yeah, it's unconventional, but you know what? Almost every single person in this cast has actual martial arts training, stunt experience, or action movie credentials. They didn't just hire random celebrities. Here's what I'm picking up from this lineup. They're not making a gritty, grounded, hyper-serious martial arts drama. They're making a Street Fighter movie that embraces the anime energy, the over-the-top characters, and the fun of the franchise. They're casting people who either understand the games or are willing to fully commit to the bit. That's actually the right approach. Street Fighter isn't supposed to be serious. It's supposed to be visually cool, fun, and a little ridiculous. And if the cast is aware of that, then suddenly Jason Momoa as Blanka makes sense. Suddenly Eric Andre as a comedic character makes sense. Suddenly WWE guys playing martial artists makes sense. Let's talk budget for a second, because this tells you a lot about a studio's intentions, and we don't officially know what Street Fighter 2026 costs, but we can make educated guesses. The original 1994 film was $35 million. The disaster Chun-Li film was $50 million. The 2021 Mortal Kombat reboot was $68 million and made $195 million. Given that this new Street Fighter is being shot in IMAX, has a massive ensemble cast with multiple A-listers, and is co-financed by both Legendary Entertainment and Capcom, we're probably looking at somewhere in the $100 to $150 million range. That's a serious investment and not a cash grab budget. Think about this. After Legend of Chun-Li bombed so hard in 2009, why would they suddenly come back in and co-finance a new movie unless they genuinely believed in it? They have way more to lose than gain here. If it fails, it's Capcom's IP that takes the hit. If it succeeds, they get revenue, but that's secondary to protecting their brand. Companies don't co-finance movies they don't believe in. It doesn't make financial sense. So the fact that Capcom is actually involved means they've looked at the script, the director, the cast, and the vision. Originally, Sony Pictures was going to distribute Street Fighter with a March 2026 release, but then in early 2025, it disappeared from Sony's slate. In August 2025, Paramount Pictures signed a 3-year distribution deal with Legendary Entertainment, and Street Fighter became the first movie under this new partnership, with a new release date, October 16th, 2026. This could mean a few things. 1. Paramount believed in Street Fighter enough to use it as the flagship for their new deal. 2. The October date was chosen because it's better positioned than March. 3. There was enough confidence in the project that 2 major studios were willing to swap it around. If a movie is truly doomed or a cynical cash grab, you don't see this kind of distribution jockeying. You see it go straight to streaming or get dumped in a bad release slot. According to the official plot synopsis, here's what's happening. Set in 1993, estranged Street Fighters Ryu and Ken Masters are thrown back into combat when the mysterious Chun-Li recruits them for the next World Warrior tournament. A brutal clash of fists, fate, and fury. But behind this battle royal lies a deadly conspiracy that forces them to face off against each other and the demons of their past. Ryu and Ken are estranged, meaning they have personal history that's fractured. That's character drama, that's something real to work with. And there's a conspiracy which probably involves M. Bison and Shadaloo doing evil things. So basically, they're not trying to overthink it. It's the core Street Fighter story. Fighters, tournament, evil corporation, personal drama. That's the formula that works. Here's something nobody talks about enough. We're living through an absolute golden age of video game adaptations right now, and it's changing the game completely because in 2023, the Super Mario Bros. Movie made $1.36 billion worldwide. Like, that's not a fluke. That's a legitimately successful adaptation. And The Last of Us HBO series became a cultural phenomenon. In 2024, Fallout on Prime Video killed it. A Minecraft movie made nearly $1 billion. In 2025, we've got Mortal Kombat 2 coming in October. The pattern here is clear. When studios respect the source material, get the actual game creators involved, and cast people who understand the IP, video game movies work now. The industry has learned from 2 decades of disasters. Street Fighter 2026 is checking those boxes. They have Capcom involved. They have cast members who are into the games. They're being made by people who understand the medium. The timing isn't accidental. Hollywood finally figured out how to make this work, and Street Fighter is launching right into that moment. This isn't a scam in the traditional sense. Nobody's making a quick dollar and running. But whether it's actually good is a different story. The pieces are there. Capcom's involvement is the biggest tell. After getting burned so badly they banned live-action adaptations. They wouldn't come back unless they genuinely believed. But here's the reality. This movie is taking a massive swing. Unconventional cast, unproven director in this space, zero goodwill from previous attempts. If this works, we could get a proper Street Fighter cinematic universe. If it fails, it might kill live-action Street Fighter forever. I think this has an actual shot. And that's honestly surprising to say given the history. So there you have it, the full breakdown. Is the new Street Fighter movie a scam? Nah. Is it a guaranteed masterpiece? Also, nah. It's a genuine high-risk, high-reward swing that could go either way, and honestly, that makes it worth paying attention to. What do you think? Are you excited for October 2026? Or are you keeping your expectations in check? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely want to know what you're thinking. If you made it this far, seriously, thank you. Hit that like button, subscribe for more of this kind of deep dive stuff, and I will see you in next video. Bye!